So I think the Lord is just impressing me to give a testimony of God's faithfulness. You know, as a little girl, 10-year-old girl, I was in church, and somebody preached on hell, and I didn't want to go there, so I walked down front to be saved. There was just one problem. Nobody explained to me what salvation was. They just had me fill out a card, sit down on the front row, fill out a card, and then stand up, and everybody came by and gave me the right hand of Christian fellowship. I just didn't happen to know what that was. And I walked out of that church that night believing that something of great spiritual significance had happened. But the truth of the matter is, I walked out totally the same. Nothing had changed because, you know, I kind of had the attitude then, well, God's lucky to get me, cute little thing like me. I'm telling you, when I finally responded to him, it was a totally, totally different heart. It was, why would you want me? There is no good thing in me. All of the good things I've ever done in my life, I've done for the wrong reason. So I don't know why you would want me. And I was so grateful to him that he did, and so grateful. I didn't understand much about Calvary, but I was so grateful for Calvary. But as that little 10-year-old girl, I walked out and thought I was saved, but all that really happened, I was inoculated against the real thing for many, many years. That's why every year that I live, I despise religion more. I despise anything that can give a false hope to anybody, but especially to little children. And then, you know, whether it's little children or whether it's grown-ups, then what the church gets you doing is involved in works. If you do the works well, you feel like you must be pleasing God. So I can remember memorizing Scripture. I can remember the Better Speakers contest, you know, and teaching, training union, and Sunday school, you know, just working, always tithing, always working. But the awful thing was that I really got a false assurance that in my denomination, it was the biggest sin of all to doubt God. How can you say you might not be saved? Was there a time when you asked him to come into your heart? Well, would he not come in if you ask him? And, you know, human reasoning. And so the bad thing is that I would look around to the ones on my right, and they might be a little better than I was, and I look at the ones on the left, and they weren't doing as well, and so I would average me out and think I must be all right. I didn't know that God said when they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves among themselves, they're without understanding. And I had no understanding. I did not have a clue what the Word said about salvation. And the sad thing is that most people in that church that I was in didn't either. There were 3 people in that church that I still remember that I knew they knew the one they were praying to. But, you know, the pastor was in immorality, the organist, and, you know, just kids pick up on things just from walking in the church house at the wrong time. You just know things. And so I grew up with just the most warped and distorted view of what God must be like. I had a wonderful daddy. He just adored me. I was his baby. I sat in his lap until I was 45 years old. Just the most precious daddy. And he just had one failing. He wouldn't discipline me. I was the baby, and he wouldn't discipline me. So I grew up with an image of God that was just like my daddy. Good daddy. And anything I did, it would just be all right because he loved me so much. And that was the God that I had from age 10 till age 38. Now, I knew at times I was empty, but I did not have a clue where to go to get filled because I thought I had it. And it wasn't it. I had religion. And, if you don't have God filling you, you're going to find something to fill you. And career was the main thing that I filled with. I just found out that I loved to work, and I'd get there earlier than most people, and I'd stay later just because I loved to work, and that brought promotions, and found myself late 20s, early 30s. I was among the top 2% of female wage earners in this country. I traveled all over this country, and 4-in-1, so unlimited expense account, bought my clothes at Bloomingdale's and best stores, but empty. So empty. None of it meant a thing. And I'd find myself at the end of days that the world would say, we're just so successful and I should be so happy. And I'd just cry because I was empty and I didn't know where to go to get filled because I had received the wrong gospel. But God is the author and finisher of salvation, and He will not leave anybody in that condition. He won't. If I don't know how he does and how He chooses and what He decides, but I just know that He would not let that longing for something go away. And at some point, I began to think that He must want me to be a missionary. I had said when I was a kid and a missionary came that I would be a missionary when I grew up. And of course, all those years, every time I'd get close to being totally committed, that little picture would flash in my mind of me in Africa. And I went in June, and sure enough, it's worse than I thought it would be. But He just kept letting me feel empty and kept drawing me, I guess. And I didn't know what it was, but I just finally came to the place and said, Lord, whatever. And I used to pray. I loved to work. Work was my idol. And I would say, God, just you can do anything you want to me. Just please don't ever make me quit work. And I finally got to the place where I said, Lord, anything, whatever it is that you have for me, I'm willing to do it. Now, of course, what I would have loved to have had was for Him to give me a job description and my little assignment, and that would be it. But what I was longing for was Him. It wasn't an it. It wasn't a Christian career. It was Him. And He's the one who puts that longing into us and nothing else. Things may temporarily satisfy, but if we're not filled with Him, we're always going to be trying to find something. If God is not first place in your life, you're going to find a relationship, a person, or a thing, a position, or possessions to try to fill the place that only He can fill. And that's what I had done, just with the job, with relationships, and nothing filled the place until He came. And I didn't even know. I made this great surrender to Him and waiting, okay. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? I was used to running things. I didn't know the first thing that He does when He comes is break all of your confidence in your ability to run things. But He brought Milton Green back into my life. We had dated almost 18 years before that. So after I made my noble offer to the Lord, well, then one day Milt calls me, and I hadn't seen him for a long time and normally wouldn't have given him the time of day because he was party-minded and I was career-minded. But I was kind of bored, so I said I would see him, and we got married a little over a year later, and I still didn't. I knew I was supposed to marry him, didn't want to,